Hi, my name's George and I'm a first year medical student at King's College London, based in Portsmouth. And I've decided to start this YouTube video because I've been receiving a few messages on LinkedIn and Instagram from people that are applying to medicine or interested in applying to medicine, and they wanted to know more about the King's course based at Portsmouth, what it was like to do medicine as a graduate. So I thought, why not start a YouTube channel and hit on the trend of all these medic YouTubers. So before I actually talk about what it's like being at Portsmouth, I thought I'd start off by telling you about my journey into medicine. So all the way back when I was in sixth form, I was studying for my A-levels, and I studied biology, chemistry and history, and I applied for medicine and I had an interview and an offer from the University of Southampton for their 6-year programme, and they offered me BBC to get in. Now, being offered BBC when typically medicine is AAA, I very mistakenly and very cockily thought that you know, I could take my foot off the gas and that I was going to be fine. Like, no way was I not going to get BBC. Well, spoiler alert, I got BBD. Missed out by 10 marks on my A-level chemistry on my place at Southampton. Then, kind of not long after that, had glandular fever, was unwell, was in hospital for a bit, so I had to take a year off. In this year, I just knew that I wanted to apply for medicine again. So I got a job working at a brain injury unit, and looked to retake my A-level chemistry. Retook my A-level chemistry at the end of that year and came out with a D again. Again, my own fault, because I didn't really change any of the way I'd been studying or anything like that. And kind of just thought, oh, I can get a C, that'll be fine, and thought I could reapply to Southampton course. Because that wasn't the case. So in September 2017, I started at the University of Leicester, and I studied medical biochemistry there. My plan was to do the transfer route in the first year of medical biochemistry. If you got 70%, you could transfer to the first year of medicine. But being young and free and living away from my parents and family for the first time, I relished the social life of university, and safe to say I did not get 70% in my first year, and I was not able to transfer. However, I did end up graduating with first class honours. I actually transferred universities in my final year, and I'm happy to do another video on that if anyone's interested in kind of looking at transferring universities, or kind of what the process was and why I did it. And I came out with first class degree in medical biochemistry and human biology in 2021. So in my final year, I decided, I'm going to apply for medicine again. And I came out with a half decent UCAT. I came out with a UCAT of 2690, which wasn't amazing, but it also wasn't bad. I thought I would maybe be able to get an interview, and I had a prediction of a 2-1. So that 2-1 coupled with a kind of lowish UCAT score meant that I didn't get any interviews that year. So I was at a bit of a loss what to do, really. But after some encouragement from my project supervisor, especially after I'd got my first, I applied to the University of Oxford, and I studied there for a year, where I did a Masters of Science by Research. So I was full-time in the lab for a year. Again, I'm more than happy to do a video on that, about applying to Oxford, and just kind of doing research in general. And I really got into research that year. I'd actually been lucky enough to publish my final year undergraduate dissertation, which, to be honest, I think was a core reason I got into Oxford. because I wasn't your typical candidate really. And then in that year at Oxford, I really got into research, and I decided not to apply for medicine whilst I was at Oxford because it was really busy, it was really intense, and I didn't feel that I had the energy to be able to focus on a medicine application at the same time as doing my masters. And I was beginning to consider that actually maybe I wanted to stay in research full time. So then I got towards the end of my masters, and I was accepted into a PhD at UCL in London. So I started that in the September of 2022. I started that PhD for a lot of reasons. Mainly, I realised that as much as I enjoyed the lab, I really missed working with patients. I decided to drop out and get a job. So I ended up working as a clinical research practitioner, which is an excellent role if you're considering going into medicine and you're looking for some experience and you don't want to do any HCA work anymore, or you kind of want something related to research. Then honestly, the role as clinical research practitioner is an excellent role. And again, more content. Absolutely would love to do a video about being a clinical research practitioner and what that entailed. Essentially, I was working with patients on clinical trials and clinical studies, recruiting them to the studies, doing follow-ups, doing assessments, and lots of admin work. So that was in 2023 that I got that job. And then in the summer of 2023, I decided, right, okay, this is it. I'm applying for medicine, doing it, getting in. So I took my UCAT. Didn't study for the UCAT because I was working full time, and I just honestly I didn't make the time for it. I thought, oh, I've done all right in it before. I've got my first class. I've got my masters. I don't need to get an amazing score. I should be fine. So skip forward to me getting my score, and I got 2,500, which is, I think it's safe to say that's an abominable score. No way was I going to get into medicine anywhere with a score like that. So I just didn't apply, and I just carried on working. And at that point, I began to consider whether I really wanted to do medicine, whether it was worth it. I was getting older. I had a job, and it had a good career progression, a good pay progression. I enjoyed it. It was a really great mix of clinical work and research. And did I really want to give that up? So I spent the year kind of thinking and deciding what I was going to do. And I will do another video on kind of what my reasons for studying medicine were. But essentially, I found myself at work only being able to go so far with patients. So if a patient on a research study was unwell or their disease was flaring, there was a certain amount I might do to identify that that's going on, but I would then always have to hand them over to the doctor or one of the clinical nurse specialists. I never got to see that through, and that's really what cemented the idea, like, okay, like I do want to do medicine, I do want to study. So then in the summer, let's say the summer of this year of 2024, I know that medicine goes into clearing, and I thought I'll have a look and see if any courses are in clearing. There's never any graduate courses in clearing, and I couldn't afford to do the undergraduate course as a graduate, but I was still interested anyway, so I had a look. And it just so happened that graduate entry medicine at King's College London, being offered at the Portsmouth branch, so through the University of Portsmouth, had gone into early clearing. They hadn't filled all their spaces. So this was in the end of July. And I thought, well, I still won't get in because I don't have a good enough UCAT. Scroll down to the page, minimum UCAT required, 2,500. And I thought, right, well, that's exactly what I got. So I'll just do it. I'll send in an application. So I put in my application. A couple of days later, hear back that I've got an interview. go to my interview prepped really well. I had about 4 days notice for my interview, so prepped super hard for this interview. This was my shot. And yeah, 4 weeks after that interview, I started medicine at Portsmouth. Had to move from London down to Portsmouth via Amsterdam because I'd booked a holiday, and got back from Amsterdam on the Sunday and started medicine on the Monday. So really, my journey has been quite convoluted, and that's why I was quite keen to actually start this YouTube channel, because I think people can sometimes get in a bit of a rut with medicine and think they have to be a certain type of person, think that they're never going to get in. But honestly, the key is just to keep applying, and I wanted to do this channel for people like that, for people like me, to kind of help you stay motivated, give you tips and tricks with your applications, and to show you what it's like to study medicine. So I will do a separate video about how the graduate program works at King's, and specifically what it's like at Portsmouth. But just as a quick overview, so at the minute I'm in my first year of the graduate entry course, which corresponds to the second year of the 5-year undergraduate course. So we start clinical placement right away. It started in August with a 4-week really intense crash course, essentially giving us the fundamentals of first year of medicine. And then in the September, we hit second year straight away, hit the ground running. We have placement twice a week. So on a Tuesday, we're in the hospital. On a Friday, we're at GP. The rest of the time, we're either in lectures or seminars or doing clinical skills. And then next year, I'll be going into my 3rd year of the 5-year course, or my 2nd year of the graduate entry course. And I'll be on placement 3 days a week because we have a day of mental health. And then in the 2 penultimate years, we're then essentially on placement nearly full time, rotating around different specialties. So over the next 6 weeks, I plan to bring out a video each week. So a video on a week in the life of a medical student, talking about my interview experience. So I gave you a very condensed version of my story of applying for medicine, but I've actually had 3 medical interviews. So one for Southampton, which I got an offer for when I was in sixth form, one at St George's, which was during COVID, and it was an online MMI interview, and it was the worst experience of my life, and then King's, which I got in. So I'm going to talk about that, and then talk about what it's like studying in Portsmouth, how I study in medical school, / if and when I do study, and what I wish I knew before starting. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.